Hi, everyone. So if you've ever started a company or thinking of starting a company, there's something that you'll need on your way to success, and that's hope and belief. Now, I know what you're all thinking. You've heard the saying before, you have to believe in yourself. And you probably heard it since you were little, maybe from mom or dad when you were on the soccer field or working on a school project. Sure, belief is the foundation, but I'm talking about something more. When you're starting a company that's going from 0 to 1, you have to do more than just believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself beyond reason. So let me explain. My former boss, Jessica Herron, founder and CEO of Stella and Dot, used to say on stage during keynotes, "You have to believe in yourself beyond reason. Otherwise, who else will?" This was also, I think, her personal mantra. Now, I always thought that this quote was reserved for delusional founders. It's the belief in themselves that keeps founders grinding each day and managing through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The very act of starting a company is often reserved for the dreamers and the believers, the founders who have a singular mission of what they want to create in the world and who believe that they alone are the only ones who can will their company into existence and build something truly great. However, as we all know, most startup journeys end in failure, and by most, we're talking 90%. If you ask most failed startup founders why they went out of business, number one on the list is they ran out of money. But I believe that that's a byproduct of something bigger. I believe that it's because founders stop believing in themselves and discover that it is so much easier to quit. The startup journey was way too difficult. There was so much pain. It was embarrassing to build a product that no customers cared about. And it is soul-sucking to hear no at every turn, from customers to investors to potential employees. And all the while, you're collecting a small paycheck or even no paycheck. And your family and friends wonder, are you really doing the best thing for you or for them? And when you get punched in the gut over and over and over, you just start thinking that it is just not going to work. And eventually, you stop believing in yourself. So quitting is the logical outcome after the belief stops. And yet, time and time again, I've seen the resilience of founders who have never stopped believing in themselves and the team around them. Their startups are the ones that almost failed or died multiple times, but they were able to make it to the other side to both survive and to thrive. Oops. So this is Jessica Herron. In 2004, she started Stella and Dot by making jewelry in her home to sell to customers. Now, her Stanford friends must have thought that she was utterly insane to forego a big fat paycheck from Google or Facebook to make her own jewelry at home, selling to customers to start a direct sales company. But she would not let anyone tell her that success wasn't possible. And less than 10 years later, Jessica was able to turn her little home jewelry business into a $200 million direct sales empire. She never stopped believing in herself, and she also did the work day in and day out. And you know what? 10 years in, she was still the hardest working person at that company, and certainly the hardest working person that I have ever worked for. So these are my friends, Pete Kazaam and Jason Heidema. And in 2010, they started a company called Unvarnished, which was a social networking site built around reputations. But that concept didn't work. But they kept believing in themselves and they kept grinding. And eventually they pivoted to Honestly, which was a professional reputation clearinghouse. But unfortunately, that concept didn't work either. But with more belief and grind, they pivoted honestly into Talent Bin in the online talent search space, where they did find some early market success. And that ultimately led to a sizable acquisition by Monster in 2014. So Jason and Pete were never well funded to begin with, and their startup almost died multiple times. Yet, they kept believing in themselves, they kept doing the work, they kept pivoting until they found something that worked. They just never gave up. And this is my friend, Sunny Mayugba. So in 2014, Sunny co-founded a company called Requested, which was a name your own price restaurant app. And despite some early success, Requested almost failed a year after launch. But Sunny's belief and his never give up attitude resulted in an awesome outcome for him and his team. So even during those darkest moments of a startup, when customers stopped using the app, restaurants kept saying no, the money was running out, and everything looked really bleak, Sunny did whatever he could to stay alive. And this led to Requested merging with another early stage startup called Waiter, and Sunny became its founding CMO. In late 2018, Waiter went public on the NASDAQ, and Sunny and his original founding team got a chance to ring the bell on opening day. So what did these founders have in common? Well, they believed in themselves beyond reason. Well, what does that mean anyway? It means believing in yourself even when all the signals seem to be against you. So your product is failing, your customers aren't returning, your team is quitting on you, and you're running out of time and money. It also means continuing the fight even when the odds are stacked against you. And it means you keep going even when every expert tells you you are dead. It means that you go to bed ready to quit, and yet you wake up and you give it one more day. And then you give it another day, and then another day. And it means that even when all hope is lost, you eliminate the option to quit. So 2 years ago, a small group of us, including my partner Shpriya Mahesh and I, were a bit delusional in thinking that we could build a unique and valuable venture firm to stand out in the sea of 1,000 venture firms that were competing with the same founder mindshare. And I'll be the first to admit that it was hard. It was really, really hard. We're 2 years in, and it is still hard. So when we started out, we were nobodies in the venture world. And while we had operational success as senior leaders at successful companies, we weren't founders ourselves. And we weren't players in the venture world. And we did not matter to anybody who was a player. So finding good deal flow was hard, really hard. And getting a founder no on that first term sheet hurt us really, really deeply. But the one thing that keeps us going is always believing in our mission, which is to invest in the very best founders, building the things that make life worth living. So you see, we believe that this new type of venture firm has to exist. A venture firm that invests in founders who are building the next great generational companies like eBay and Tesla that are both purpose-driven and could scale to become billion-dollar companies. So we do the work. We develop our investment thesis, we write, we speak, we build relationships in the startup ecosystem, including with Expat Women. We reach out to founders, we go to events, and we even host our own events, and lots of them too. And in one of our early Spero events, we met a really authentic and values-aligned serial founder. When he learned more about Spero, our firm's thesis, and he got to know our team, he knew that he wanted to join. Well, that person was Mark Tarpenning, the co-founder of Tesla Motors, and now venture partner at Spero Ventures. So that is Mark in the light blue button-down shirt there on the left. So there were days in our journey when I questioned whether Spero would make it. Could we build a great differentiated brand? Would we see proprietary deal flow? And would the very best founders take our money? But then I stopped questioning myself and I started believing. Because you see, I know that this firm has to exist, and I know that we are the team that needs to build it. I know we're gonna do the work, and I am so, so proud of what we're building. And yet at the same time, our journey is still just beginning. So Spero is Latin for hope, and we believe in the power of technology to build the kind of future that we all want to live in. And I remain hopeful that we are building a great venture firm, one that is investing in the very best mission-driven founders who are building a brighter tomorrow and changing the world for the better. And who knows, maybe Spero will even outlast all of us one day. And maybe our vision gets realized, or maybe it doesn't. But either way, we will continue to do the work. And I'm going to continue to believe in us and our founders beyond reason, because if not us, who else will? And with that, I think we might still have a couple of minutes for some questions.
So if you have any questions for Ha, please type them in the Q&A box. As she's mentioned, she has 2 minutes left. Ha, in the meantime, if you want to share links to Spero Ventures in the chat box. Also, I have a question. How, because right now funding has been affected, right? I know a lot of startups are struggling to find funding. So do you have any advice? And I do see a question, so I'm going to actually leave that, give you the opportunity to answer that question.
Sure, I'll try to answer both. So, so investors are still investing. The first few weeks when COVID all happened, things were slowing down because investors were looking out for their portfolio companies and making sure that everybody had enough to survive and thrive, on the other side of COVID. But everybody is back to work now. They're still investing now. Of course, the bar for getting funding has probably increased, and investors are very, very cautious and wary, and they want to see traction, and they want to understand sort of how COVID has impacted you. I have a whole talk on fundraising in the era of COVID, so I would love to come back to the Expat Woman and share more of my fundraising tips, and especially how you can get those dollars from VC firms during this period. So
I'm sorry to jump in again, Ha, but we are out of time.
Oh, okay. So I will try to answer as many of the questions I see in the either the chat or the Q&A.
The Q&A box. Yes. Thank you so much. That was fantastic, and we definitely would love to have you back to talk about fundraising in the time of COVID. So I will take you up on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.